Well, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Love Not Fear. I am Jack Cox, author of Love Not Fear, and I'm with my gorgeous co-host, Danny Day, who's written two scrumptious books.
Your Guide to Feeling Fabulous, Fast and Orgasmic Health.
Right, today we're going to be talking about Dingle.
Yay, magical Dingle. I'm so excited, Jack.
Yeah. Dingle is a small port town in County Kerry in southwest Ireland.
Yeah.
On the Dingle Peninsula, which Annie and I both love.
Oh, for sure.
We both go often.
Yeah. And also, we both said it's got very similar energy to our other favourite place with Glastonbury, isn't it? Well, so, magical things happening Dingle as well as Glastonbury. And yeah, it's just scrummy.
Yeah, I have promoted this as the Irish Glastonbury, so maybe that's pushing it a little bit too far. But
no, we think it is.
We love the place.
Really do, don't we? It's a very magical, mystical place.
Known for its rugged scenery, trails, and sandy beaches, and of course its castle.
Yeah.
With a population of just 2,000. In an area of just 1 square kilometre.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a stretch, but we like to think of it as the Irish Glastonbury.
Yeah.
It's of all the places in Ireland, I think Dingle is probably the one most closely linked with the traditional Gaelic traditions.
Yeah.
And they still have public celebrations of the Celtic festivals.
Yeah.
Such as Beltane, and they still do Wren Day, if you remember Wren Day.
Yeah, definitely. And I really loved it. The first time I ever went, I was drinking pints of hot water in a proper pint mug.
Yeah.
And I loved it that spontaneously people would just start singing, they'd get their drums out, they'd get their flutes out, and it was just such a spontaneous, joyful way of being, really, that you never knew when it, there were some pubs that were saying, at 7 o'clock this person is going to be on, but quite often I found all the times I went to Dingle that it would be a bit more spontaneous than that. Yeah, people would go, hey, let's have a sing.
Yeah, and it's very, very Irish. So, I mean, don't expect.
Andrew wants to be admitted. I'll just admit.
Can you do it? Can you let him in?
I've done it. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Right, we're talking about Dingle in Ireland, in southwest Ireland. Have you been there, Andrew?
I've been to Ireland, but I've not been to Dingle. As
far
as I'm aware.
Dingle's this magical little town in the southwest.
County Kerry.
And
maybe I have then. Maybe I have. I've been down to Cork. I've been to West Cork.
Okay. Yeah, Andrew. I think if you've been there, Andrew, you
would know if you'd been there. You would know.
Absolutely magical place.
Oh, really, really, isn't it? For sure.
Yeah, there's music in all the bars and all the pubs.
That's what we love, isn't it?
I expect to hear lots of rebel songs because they're not interested in being part of Britain. They're very, very, very independent people. You'll hear all the nation once again type songs.
Yeah. Do you know what I loved at the time? If I went to a pub in England and asked for a pint of water, they'd go, what do you mean, a pint of water? I went into this pub in Dingle and said, excuse me, can I have a pint of water? And he said, do you want a straight glass or dimple glass? I was like, yeah, there's such a difference. There was no question that I couldn't have what I wanted or that I was weird in some way. He just went straight glass or dimple glass. And after that, every time I went, he said, do you want a teaspoonful of sugar in? I was like, no, just water. That'll be great.
I've been
But
to
I
Killarney.
Pardon?
I've been to Killarney.
Ah, okay.
So that's as far as we got. We it took a whole day to get there. And we got in about 5 o'clock. So I think it was too far to go any further.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right.
So it's another one to add to your bucket list after Glastonbury, to go to County Kerry, go to Dingle.
Take your own bucket.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Bull and Stone on the main street?
Yeah.
Bullen in Gaelic means bowl,
Yeah.
and the water collected in the depression in the stone.
Yeah.
And they've got these all over Ireland and other
Yeah.
parts of the world as well.
Yeah, they have.
The water collected in the bowl in the rock has magical healing properties.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And do you know what else I loved as well about the Irish, particularly in Dingle? It's like Glastonbury folk, that they expect magic, they expect mystical, they expect synchronicities, and they really celebrate it, you know, that it is a very beautifully magical place. It's just lovely, lovely, lovely.
It's so what you haven't lived if you've not been to Dingle.
Oh, I haven't lived then, so never mind.
You've got time
You
to
will.
do that.
Islands.
Go on, carry on.
Ireland's native Ogham alphabet can be seen everywhere. And
Yeah.
it's still very much in use today. We talked about Ogham, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, sure.
You can see it incorporated into shop signs, and
Oh,
you see it
yeah.
everywhere.
It's just beautiful, isn't it?
And there's a lovely labyrinth behind St Mary's Church.
Yeah. And there's
But-
Mary Magdalene's church as well, that I really particularly felt a real resonance with.
But before we look too closely into the specifics of Dingle,
Yeah.
can we just have a quick look at where it fits into the bigger picture of Ireland?
Go
Well,
off.
And talk very, very briefly about folio 53 from the Book of Leinster.
Yeah.
Now, my Gaelic pronunciation is pretty useless.
It's probably as good as mine.
So I'm just going to give it its English name, which
Okay.
is the Book of Invasions, also sometimes known as the Book of Conquests.
Yeah.
Written in the 8th century. Modern scholars tend to consider it to be more myth than actual history, based on medieval Christian pseudo-histories, but it incorporates some authentic native pagan mythology.
Yeah.
History teaches us of the invasions by the Vikings and later by the English. But what of the earlier invasions from prehistory? The Book of Invasions talked about an invasion by the Spanish king Melusis. According to the legend, which may or may not be true, the Melusians are sons of Mil, and that they were the final race to settle in Ireland in prehistory, more or less.
Yeah.
Their descendants being the modern Irish people.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. The Melusians are said to have sailed to Ireland from Iberia, from the Iberian Peninsula, which we now call Spain.
Which would be doable.
When they landed in Ireland,
Yeah.
they had to contend with the Tuatha de Danann, who represent the Irish pantheon of gods. These were the group that lived in Ireland before. And I
Yeah.
think we could do a whole story, a whole episode one week about the story of these particular people. and who they may or may not
But
have
we're
been.
concentrating on Dingle today.
But we're just going to very quickly brush over them today.
Yeah.
So the two groups agreed to divide Ireland between them. The Venusians would take the upper world, the world of matter, the physical world, while the Tuatha De Danann would have taken the lower world, the other world.
Yeah.
These are considered to be very magical spiritual beings.
Indeed.
So is there any hard evidence that any of this could really have happened? Well, according to genetic studies led by Professor Dan Bradley of Trinity College Dublin's Smurfit Institute of Genetics, there could well be some truth in the story.
Yeah.
Professor Bradley and his colleagues have done extensive genetic analysis into where the Irish came from and how they got to Ireland, and found that the closest relatives of the Irish people, and especially those in the west of Ireland around the Dingle Peninsula, are found in various parts of Galicia and the Basque Country in what we now call Spain.
Yeah.
So there could be some truth in the story.
Although the Basques probably wouldn't like to be called Spanish, because sometimes they want to be French, sometimes they want to just be Basques. Like the Welsh don't really like being called British.
I think they want to be Basque. They want to be independent.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get that completely.
They were sold out to Spain after the Second World War.
Absolutely.
So the Dingle people are likely to be the closest relatives of the migrants who originally settled in Ireland.
Yeah.
And that's the reason for mentioning it today.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut this a little bit short. Hang on. The human data definitely showed that the Irish have the strongest relationships genetically with the people of the northern Iberian Peninsula.
Yeah.
And I've lived there. I lived there for, well, I didn't live in the northwest of Spain.
Yeah.
I lived in Spain for 17 years.
Yeah.
And I went up there many times. And it's such a beautiful Celtic vibe there.
Yeah.
And
I think it's very plausible, isn't it?
And you get the same stories that you hear in Ireland and in Wales, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, us Celts love our stories and our songs, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah. They found linkages that trace back to the famous, let me go with my pronunciations again, O'Neill kindred.
Yeah.
Neil Nog. Yeah, all right. I'm going to put it in the. I'm going to have to edit this and put it in the description because I can't.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine, Jack, isn't it? Fine.
Yeah, Neil of the Nine Hostages. You know, you've probably heard of him. Right now, there's also strong connections with British mythology that we would now call Welsh mythology.
Yeah.
And also with Middle Eastern mythology.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just want to look at these connections very, very briefly before we look into Dingle in more detail, if that's okay.
Right. Perfect.
The salmon of wisdom, sometimes called the salmon of knowledge.
Yeah.
Finn McCall, also known by other slightly different names in other parts of Ireland, but I'm just going to call him Finn McCall because that's easy to pronounce.
Absolutely.
The early adventures of, it's also called Fionn Mac Cumhain or something, but Chris was calling Finn McCall.
Yeah.
In the story, an ordinary salmon ate 9 hazelnuts that fell into the well of wisdom from the 9 hazel trees that surrounded a Boyne on the river Boyne, in fact.
Yeah.
By this act, the salmon gained all the world's knowledge. The first person to eat of its flesh would in turn gain this knowledge.
Fabulous.
Sounds good, doesn't it?
It does. Eat some hazelnuts, become even more intelligent and gifted. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, well, hazelnuts feature very strongly in Druid tradition
Absolutely.
everywhere. There was a Druid sage, also called Finn, just to confuse everybody, Finn Finnegas, who spent 7 years fishing for the salmon. Now, 7 is probably a magical number.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
Finally, he caught the salmon and gave the fish to Finn, his servant, with instructions to cook it, but on no account to eat any of it. Finn cooked the salmon, turning it over and over, but some of the juice spat out of the pan and landed on his thumb. Finn sucked his thumb to ease the pain,
and gained all that wisdom.
thus gaining the wisdom instead of his master.
Yippee!
Well, we'll cut this a bit short now, else we're going to go on all day.
And I've got some scrummy things to share as well.
I'm sure you have, so I'm not going to hog the whole show.
No, well, it is your show, Jack, at the end of the day.
No, it's our show. It's our show, Andy.
I'm sorry, Jack. It's our show. It's our show. I do apologise. Hush my mouth.
Now, the Welsh mythology, you have a very similar story. The story of Gwion Bach, young innocent.
Indeedy.
In the Welsh version of the story, the goddess Cerridwen had a very ugly son, Afagdu, utter darkness. And she decided that, I don't actually need me notes for this, so let's get back on. And she decided that if the son couldn't be handsome, at least he could be wise.
Yeah.
So she brewed a magic brew in her magic cauldron. But a year and a day. And she employed young Gwion Bach to tend it, keep the fire just at the right level and make sure it never ran dry and never boiled over.
Indeed.
However, you knew there was going to be a however. On the very last day, the brew boiled over and 3 drops of scalding liquid landed on his thumb, which he sucked. It's the same story, isn't it? It's the same story.
Exactly the same story.
And
the 3 is a magical number as well, isn't it? So the 3 drops on the thumb. That sounds good.
I must say that even today in modern Druid societies, the symbol is of these 3 drops of Arwen landing.
Yeah.
Jumping out of a cauldron and landing different versions of that
giving
picture.
us this forbidden wisdom. Woo woo.
So again, cutting a story very, very short, Cerridwen was not a happy bunny rabbit. And she tried to kill Gwion, but she couldn't catch him. And then we get into this shape-shifting series, which I'm not going to go into details on.
Absolutely. All us Celts can do shape-shifting,
which is probably a memory of some ancient initiation ceremony.
Yeah. And also ancient skills that we're not told we can do in the present moment.
Yeah. But the very last shapeshift, Gwion turns into a grain of wheat.
Yesy.
And Cerridwen turns into a black hen and eats the grain of wheat.
Yeah, absolutely.
But instead of digesting it, it quickened in her womb and she became pregnant with it.
Yes. That's a neat trick if you can do it, isn't it?
And this is where it ties in. This is where it ties in with Middle Eastern mythology.
Yeah, indeed.
Because when the baby was born, she couldn't bring herself to kill it. So she put it in a leather bag and sent it down. Sound like Moses?
Moses? Egyptian mythology? Sounds very similar, doesn't it? Sounds very similar.
In Moses' version, the bag, the reed boat was found by the princess.
Yeah.
Egyptian princess. In the Welsh version, it was found by a Welsh prince.
Yeah.
And now we come into the salmon connection again, because the bag washed up against his salmon weir traps.
Oh, there you go.
So isn't that a very similar story?
Oh, without doubt, isn't it? It's literally parallel lines. Parallel lines, isn't it? It's the same story.
No. So the prince cut open the bag with his knife, saw
Yeah.
this little baby with a radiant brow, and said, I'm going to call him Taliesin, because Taliesin in Welsh means radiant brow.
Yeah.
And then we have the whole story of Taliesin, which grows up to be a great magician in the same way that Moses did.
Yeah.
And goes on ultimately, according to some versions of the story, in later life to become Merlin.
Yes. Which
And
takes us back to the Isle of Avalon.
And this is why I want to bring the connection back. So this is all I'm going to do. I'm going to finish in a minute and get back on the Dingle. But I really just want to set the scene here.
Yeah.
Because Arthur, according to some versions of the story, he wasn't a king. He was the leader of a war band. And I believe that.
King Arthur and Avalon.
And his war band.
Yes,
and he existed in the 5th or 6th century, if he existed at all.
Yeah.
And his war band attempted to drive the Saxons out of Britain.
Yeah.
Now this brings me into it's said, as we mentioned 2 weeks ago in the Glastonbury show, that Arthur and his war band are supposed to be undead under Glastonbury tour.
Yeah.
Waiting to be recalled during Britain's
in our hour of need, which is now this moment.
And as we said before, they've got to get a bloody move on.
Come on, Arthur, stop messing about.
Finn McCall went on to have a war band.
Yeah.
It was originally his father's, but we won't go into all of that. The Fianna, Finn and the Fianna, you'll read a lot about them.
Yeah.
And it's said that Finn and the Fianna are undead and resting under Tower Hill, waiting until Ireland has need of them once again. So again, it's the same story. It's the same story.
It's the same story, for sure.
And let's just bring it back to Spain, because the north of Spain, Asturias, the province in the north of Spain, also has a King Arthur legend, the King Arthur character. And this is an actual known historical character called Don Pelayo.
Yeah.
And Don Pelayo's job, and he was very successful at it, although the whole job took about 400 or 500 years.
Yeah.
His job was to drive the Moors out of Spain.
Yeah.
And he started that. So as Arthur tried to drive the Saxons out of Britain, Don Pelayo tried to drive the Moors out of Spain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole thing comes round.
That parallel version of what was happening globally, really, isn't it? Very exciting.
Now, with my screen flashing like hell, I'm going to stop talking and let Annie take over for a bit, if that's all right.
Okay, me darling. Yeah, I don't have any trouble talking to her, Jack. We both know. Shutting me up might be a problem. Getting me started, not so much. So, delightful Dingle is a small port town on the southwest island's Dingle Peninsula, County Kerry, known for its rugged scenery, trails and sandy beaches. A statue of the long-time town's most famous resident is Fungie, a friendly bottlenose dolphin who has been living in the bay since 1983. Children and adults used to love taking boat trips to visit Fungie. There is also an opportunity to visit to the town's well-stocked aquarium. North of Dingle town is the mighty ramparts of Brandon, and on its western side lies a coastal path studded with quaint, typical Irish hamlets and villages. This western end of the peninsula offers magnificent coastal scenery, and I know I found it breathtaking. The first time I saw it, Jack, I bet it was the same for you, wasn't it?
Oh, it took my breath away. Absolutely. Yeah.
Literally, it's just so beautiful.
And we went in the first time we went off season.
Yeah.
So we had the beautiful mists, and oh, it was just gorgeous.
Perfect. So the Dingle Dolphin Fungie, he was an adult male Atlantic bottlenose dolphin, about 20 years old when he first turned up in Dingle. He was totally wild and free. He caught his own fish and was self-sufficient in every way. He took up residence at the mouth of Dingle Harbour as a young dolphin, possibly orphaned in 1984, when he first allowed local divers to approach him. He was named Fungie by the locals as he loved to follow a fishing boat of a particular fisherman who was renowned for having this beard that looks like layers and layers of mushrooms. So they used to call the fisherman Fungie, and then because this dolphin loved him so much and used to follow his fisherman's boat coming in and out, they named the dolphin after him, basically. But yeah, I've seen the photos of the man's beard, and it does look like layers and layers of beautiful fungus.
It's a very rare thing, isn't it? When a dolphin becomes separated from its pod, that it adopts people.
Yeah.
But Fungie did, didn't he?
He really loved people, Jack. It was incredible, wasn't it? Since about 1986, he has actively sought the company of human beings. He would often, and I'll try and talk properly, he would often approach and play with snorkelers, divers and canoeists. Fungie in Dingle is unique not only for the length of time he's been there, but for the variety and complexity of his interactions with people. His pod would come in May and rejoin him, you know, this little family pod that had kind of adopted him. And then it would get to the end of September and they would go off to warmer climes, but he wouldn't. He stayed the whole year round. And yeah, thank goodness he did. Otherwise, I'd have never swum with him.
Oh, did you actually swim with him?
I did. Oh, not just once. I did it 7 years on the trot, Jack.
Oh, beautiful.
I am a mermaid as well as a fairy, aren't I? So it had to be done.
A beautiful mer fairy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. He was playful, joyful, and truly was a great healer. He's believed to have passed over 2 years ago. So my story is that my children decided for one of my birthday presents, because I'd kept on about this dolphin called Fungie in Dingle, they paid for my flight and they also paid for my accommodation. And I went to the tourist information. So my birthday's in October. So the earliest I could fly out was the 3rd week in November. So I went to tourist information, which is where they said the tickets for the boat were. And the lady said, oh, no, the season stops at the end of September. No, you can't go swimming with him. You can't go swimming with him. So literally, I went outside and just went, I don't believe that the universe has got me here. And my lovely children have paid for this, for me not to be able to swim with Fungie. I don't believe it. And then this man comes along with a bobble hat on. And he said, what are you crying for? And I said, I've just been told that I can't swim with Fungie because it's November. He said, well, as I'm the captain of the boat, we'll see about that. So I convinced him that, you know, I didn't know about Wim Hof at the time, but I know that when I get in the water and I'm completely covered in water, my mermaid thermostat kicks in and I get really, really roasting. So I convinced him that I'd be fine with it. Anyway, he said, well, we've got a problem here because we need a wetsuit for you because it's the 3rd week in November and it's the Atlantic Ocean. So I said, okay, so where would I get, this is why it's similar to Glastonbury. Where would I get a wetsuit from? And he went, well, now there's a funny thing. Do you see that red estate car that's just pulled onto the car park? That's the lady who rents the suits out. So he said, go and have a word with her and find out what day the weather forecast is really calm. So I went over to her and she says, yeah, do you want to come today and we'll fit you up with your wetsuits? So did all that. Then I'd got the phone number of the captain of this boat. So I said, how much will this be? And he said, it's 100 euro, it's a 10-person boat and it's 100 euros for each person. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, 1,000 euros. But you know what? I really want to do it, so I'll just pay it. So I said, so that's 1,000 euros. He said, you're not very bright in England, are you? I've just told you it's 100 euros per person. You're only one person. I said, yeah, but you also told me that it's a 10-person boat. So I thought that meant I'd have to pay for the whole boat. And he went, you've got a weird English brain in there. So I said, okay, well, weird English brain or not, I'll willingly pay you the 100 euros, not 1,000. I said,
You've got a weird English brain in there, Annie.
Well, it seemed logical to me if you usually charge that amount and it's a 10-set anyway. So he said, I said, oh, well, the lady, I've got the wetsuit, and the lady said that the weather forecast tomorrow is really calm. So can we go tomorrow? And he said, Jen, we'll have none of this English, messing about. You have to be here really early in the morning. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be Atlantic Ocean in the dark at 4:30 in the morning. I'd got this little scenario going through my head. I said, so how early are you talking? He said, no later than 10 o'clock. I was like, what? So I got in my lovely boat at 10 o'clock. We sailed off and he said to me, I'll take you up there. I said, no, I want to swim in that little cove there. He said he never goes there. He only goes up to the horizon because there's loads of salmon. I said, well, that's where I want to swim. He said, lady, you're wasting your money because he never goes there. So I got into the water, swim over to this cove. 5 minutes later, I see Fungie coming for me. And literally, it's one of the most spiritual experiences of my life. He stood upright in the water and put his fins on me and looked into my eyes.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh my God, Jack, I cried so much.
Incredible.
The healing I was getting was just beyond anything I've ever experienced before or since. And I really felt like we were looking into each other's souls, that we were soulmates. It was just so beautiful. And then he got back in the water. He was like swimming all the way around my feet, round and round and round and round really fast. And then he'd tear off to the horizon. He'd come back again, stand up in the water, go round and round around my feet again, very playful and joyful. And then off he'd go again. And the captain of this boat's going, hey, lady, get out the water or I'm calling the Coast Guard. I said, call the Coast Guard. That's fine. That's fine. Go and call him.
Why did he want you to get out of the water?
Because I'd already been in for an hour and he decided that despite my objections that I was going to die of hypothermia, which is clearly not what was going to happen. Anyway, probably about half an hour after that, after he said, right, I'm really going to call the Coast Guard. That Fungie gave me one last really big hug, and I knew it was that we were saying goodbye to each other for that session, not forever, but for that session. And then he bombs off to the horizon. So I get in the boat and this captain's going, he's got this silver, I don't know what it is, silver tinfoily stuff to wrap me in. And I said, I don't need that. Honestly, I'll show you. So I touched him and he went, you're roasting. I said, that's what I'm telling you. I knew that I wouldn't be in any danger. But Jack, everything that got me to enjoy my birthday present was magically created in Dingle, because It was outside of the season. You know, the chances of the captain of that boat walking towards me as I was having this really big cry about, I don't believe that I can't have this. And then just happening the lady to come with the wetsuit was just, oh, just incredibly brilliant. And
incredible. Yeah.
And it is like Glastonbury, isn't it? That's normal for Dingle. So it would be easy to arrive on the Dingle Peninsula and not leave the town of Dingle itself, because there's so much to do, isn't there, Jack? It's bohemian, artistic, and genuinely friendly. Dingle is famed for its hardware pubs. This is what I remember as well. You could buy a pint and a pair of wellies all in the same pub. And I really love that. They had gardening tools and all sorts of magical, lovely stuff. So you can push out beyond the town and you're faced with an incredible 6,000 years of history. And the Kerry coastline with its pounding waves, salty winds, dramatic cliffs and wide racing skies. Their Galorous Oratory, an early Christian church overlooking the rippling blue waters of Merrick Harbour. There is also the beautiful Mary Magdalene's Church, which is well worth a visit. I loved it. I really loved it. Yeah. There's Cuminal Beach with its haunting views of the Blasket Islands. You really need to
yeah.
Islands. Yeah. They're lovely, aren't they, Jack? They really are.
Inhabited up until 1953.
Yeah. And now there's no inhabitants on, but it is still beautifully, exquisitely wild and gorgeous, isn't it?
And I found out today that you can get away with wild camping there.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. I think it was in the Irish News or something. Yeah, I think that'd be great, you know. Connors Pass, which is right next to Commerley Beach, is the highest mountain road in Ireland. It's exceptional. Everything about that is exceptional as an everyday occurrence here. To get the most out of Dingle Peninsula, you may want to head off to the Sleehead Drive, a spectacular driving route that weaves and twists around the coast from Dingle. After you set off near to Dingle Bay, you'll find the Fahan Beehive, which boasts a good collection of closhan, which are medieval stone houses once inhabited by monks. These cone-shaped structures can be seen along the Sleehead Drive. And if they look familiar to you, there's very good reason. The beehive huts on Skellig Michael were featured as Luke Skywalker's hideaway in Star Wars, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, brilliant.
Woohoo! That, I think that is why we recognise it. We've never seen that before. So it was Luke Skywalker's hideaway in Star Wars in the episode of The Last Jedi. Arguably, Kerry's finest beach, Commerley, is all windswept sands, pounding Atlantic waves and jagged black rocks. It's pure drama, which is no wonder as it is featured in the David Lean film Ryan's Daughter.
Yeah.
I love that film as well. More heart-stirring scenery awaits you at Dunquin Harbour with its iconic twisting roads that lead to the harbour. From here, you can catch a ferry to the deserted and poetic, as Jack and I have already said, Blasket Islands, the most westerly island group in Europe. This coast has such a powerful presence in this part of the world that it can be easy to forget that there's more to the Dingle Peninsula than the sea. Just look at Connors Pass. This single lane mountain pass twists and turns relentlessly from Dingle Town to Brandon Bay. Stop at the summit and you'll be treated to breathtaking, stunning views of the whole peninsula and its terrain of rust-coloured mountains, sweeping green valleys and inky lakes. For a great base for any stay on the Dingle Peninsula, Dingle, in my opinion, and probably Jack's as well, is definitely one of the island's most charming towns. Houses are painted a variety of colours, displaying amazing mural art, which again is like Glastonbury, isn't
like
it?
Glastonbury, yeah.
And on some of the shops and therapy centres, there are eclectic little fashion and jewellery shops on Green Street, giving way to intimate and cosy pubs such as Ashes and Foxy John's. There's great Irish style tapas to be had at Solas, fine dining Dingle style in the Chart House, which again, oh, they have the most amazing food. And some of the best ice cream on the island of Ireland at the much loved Murphy's. You've got to go to Murphy's and taste the ice cream. It's just
got to try Murphy's ice cream. They have all these different flavours, don't they? That are unique to them.
Yeah, yeah. My personal favourite restaurant, this won't surprise you either, Jack, is Doyle's Seafood Restaurant.
Oh. Yeah.
So I've had oysters there, I've had lobster, I've had crab, I've had all different varieties of fish and clam chowder and all sorts of lovely things. Dingle Ocean World Aquarium has penguins, otters and sharks. To the northwest, Galeras Oratory is an ancient dry stone church with sloping sides. Again, really picturesque and pretty, isn't it? Cliff Top Dunbeg is a prehistoric promontory fort to the southwest. And as Jack's already said, the population is only 2,050. So the Blasket Islands, uninhabited since 1953, the Great Blasket Island can be accessed by passenger ferry from both Dunquin and Dingle Town. Walk the island or picnic on the strand. Watch out for puffins and seals and gannets. Oh, it was the first time at Dingle that I ever saw a real puffin. I've seen them in books and I've seen pictures, but I'd never actually seen real live puffins. And they were eating, they were, I didn't realise how far they can fly as well. Just amazing.
You get up really close to them too, can't you?
Yeah, they're not scared of humans at all, are they? They just like fungi, really. They're just like us, beautiful humans.
Well, there's nothing there if you want to visit the island. Most of the year there's nothing there, so make sure you take everything that you're going to need.
Take your picnic with you and your flask. Warm clothes, because it's very blustery and wild and beautiful, but it is very, very cold, isn't it?
And don't leave any litter. Take it all home with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no toilets on the island, so take a little trowel in case you're going to get caught short.
Yep. You have to do free weeing, don't you? Or wild weeing, I think it's called. I believe that the Dingle Peninsula, but particularly Dingle, is magical and mystical, and once you've visited once, you'll definitely want to come back for more. Definitely. So sadly, I found this in the Irish Post, and the headline is "Search for Fungi Makes Headlines Across the Globe." So on October the 21st, 2020, this beautiful soul disappeared, basically. I don't know if you can see there, Jack. So that's the lovely fungi.
Yeah.
Bless him.
He lived to a good old age, though, didn't he? He was over 40, I think, when he died.
Yeah, and if you think that he was an orphan, the fact that he was so loved and appreciated, and knew that, and this family pod would come back in May and visit him and stay till September. The fact that he survived being very self-sufficient and independent. And he's incredible, isn't it?
And we need to stress that he was a completely wild dolphin.
Oh, absolutely. There was no, you know, they told you this on the tours, because I went every single year, but I didn't do the tours after that. I used to just go in with either naked or in my swimming costume and go swimming with him, because actually I really don't like wetsuits. They're too confining and constraining for me. But anyway, it got me to swim with him the first time. So this says the ongoing search for Fungie the Dolphin has broken the hearts of local people in Dingle Island and globally. The County Kerry icon has been missing for over 7 days. This was October 21. And as each day passes without any signs, fears are growing the dolphin may never return. Fishermen, divers and locals have been searching the area for the past week, extending the search by several miles every day, but hopes that Fungie was avoiding a pod of common dolphins or had been on an extra long hunt have faded. A team of divers has carried out an extensive search for Fungie, but there is still no sign of this much-loved Dingle dolphin. This week, the search will begin to wind down, and locals have admitted they feared that he may never be found and may have passed over. Last year, Fungie made worldwide headlines as he was named the world's longest living solitary dolphin. Now, outlets across the globe are picking up on this very sad story. In England, America, Europe, and even farther afield, major newsreaders are reporting on Fungie's disappearance and possible demise. So the BBC News, for a change, the BBC News actually shared something that was truthful. Well done, BBC. Shared the news of the dolphin's disappearance with the United Kingdom, with hundreds of people taking to the comments section to share their own memories of their trips to Ireland in recent years and with swimming with Fungie. So one woman had said, it's heartbreaking to hear this. I've been to see Fungie twice over the years. He's very special. And then other people were saying how much they loved him. And then again, this was CNN, a similar story about beautiful Fungie. So while I was doing this research, I've had a little cry this afternoon, because I used to love going there every single year for 7 years. And yeah, it really used to make my heart sing, just the fact that I'd get into the water and I'd go, Fungie, I'm here, and he'd be there in like 2 minutes flat. But also he was, Jack, and you will understand this perhaps more than most people, but whenever he put his fins on me and gave me that hug and looked into my eyes, it was the most incredible spiritual healing and emotional healing as well, I think. It really was. So I've got a bit of show and tell. Surprise.
Go on, show and tell.
Andrew would have been deeply shocked if I hadn't. So one of the times I went to Dingle, I always go collecting beach combing. I collect driftwood and shells, as we know. So I collected, on my very first visit, this beautiful razor shell. Can you see? If I turn it that way, it's perhaps better.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what's extraordinary? Inside it is barnacle. Can you see barnacle there?
Yeah,
that's just about. Okay, yeah. So in seashell healing, razor shells are really good for strengthening your intent and strengthening your bones as well. But this being attached to it, whenever there's barnacle, it's to help us to go, even if we were told that we're rubbish at dancing at school, or we can't sing for toffee, or whatever it is, what barnacle teaches us is, it says, do you know what? I will decide what I will achieve, and I will make my mind up about how I will succeed. So it gets rid of any old what shall I call it, conditioning or programming that's running in the background that says you can't be this incredible, amazing, fantastic being. So I thought I'd show you that because it's got barnacle on it. So clearly that was a great gift, wasn't it?
That's gorgeous, Annie.
And then I'd thoroughly recommend these cards. They're called Magical Mermaids and Dolphins. And prior to me going to sunny Dingle for the first time, I used this pack of cards all the time, and I kept getting that I was going to be trying new adventures. That was the card that used to keep coming up all the time. So I'm so grateful, Jack, that we decided to talk about this, because this has really helped me to get in touch with some really beautiful heart healing memories. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for doing it. Yeah. I really, you've got to go to Dingle if you get a chance. If you get a chance, no trip to Ireland is complete without a trip to Dingle.
No, it's got a really lovely energy, hasn't it? Just like we said earlier, just like Glastonbury, some really magical things happen, and the people are so friendly and spontaneous and joyful, and I just loved it.
And the countryside is absolutely gorgeous. It's to die for.
Isn't it? It really is it's the Emerald Isle. It's beautiful green, isn't it? It really is so beautiful. And they do have a lot of rain, but I've had this conversation countless times that if they didn't have rain, it couldn't be as lusciously green.
Absolutely. No, the rain's all part of it.
Isn't it? You have to have that rain to make it the green Emerald Isle.
I will just mention that just behind Dingle is a gorgeous mountain range.
Yeah, there is.
Called McGilly Cuddy Reeks.
Yeah.
With the highest point in Ireland of 1,038 meters.
Wow.
I'm going to crucify the pronunciation of this. Carron Hill.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It sort of frames Dingle, doesn't it? It really does. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and just a couple of miles away, you've also got a lovely touring, driving route called the Kerry Ring.
Oh, absolutely.
If you've got to go with a car, you've got to drive the Kerry Ring.
Yeah. At the time when I went, we'd got a car that the roof could go down on, so that was just ideal for that. Yay! Perfect.
It's such breathtaking countryside.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It really is magical. Do you know what else I loved as well? That they talk really openly about the fae.
Yes, absolutely.
It's like everyday conversation about the fairies, how they've helped them.
For them. Yeah.
And I know that at the time they were telling me about how many times the council has asked to not put the road there or not put the traffic lights there because it's a fairy crossing point, or it's a magical fairy and the fairy bushes can't be cut down. And I really loved it that they're so passionate about protecting the fae folklore and that they really believe it. And I really like being part of a family, because every pub I went into, I didn't feel like I was a single woman on my own. I felt like I was just rejoining my Celtic family, because they really looked after me. And they would be singing and dancing, and they'd take the piss out of my Birmingham accent all the time. Surprise. And make all sorts of English jokes, because they think we're stupid, which clearly perhaps they're right.
They're such beautiful people, aren't they? They're just so natural.
Yeah.
Just so natural. They've got no airs and graces.
No, just really, really kind.
I
Really,
mean, there's
really
other
kind.
parts of Ireland I've been where I've not felt at home at all. But
Yeah.
Dingle, it's just,
Yeah,
so it's like going to Glastonbury. You just
it
feel at home
is.
straight away.
It is. It's like your heart and soul family home, isn't it, on Dingle, just like Glastonbury. So yeah, I'm very, very blessed. But it's made me want to go back all the more, even though Fungie isn't there. And that was, you know, that was my rationale for going there originally. But you know what? I feel like I could do with going this year. So when I'm back from visiting my family, I think I'm going to plan a trip to Dingle because I really fancy it.
I'm going to see if I can do a wild camping trip over there this summer.
Oh yeah.
If I can, yeah. I mean, I normally go to the Glastonbury wild camp, and I normally go to Dartmoor wild camping
Yeah.
in every summer. But this year, I think I might just go to
Might have a change.
to go
Yeah,
to
might have a change.
Dingle. Be a change.
Yeah, and my ancestors, I'm clearly a Celt. I've got this colour hair, well, slightly bottle dyed, but I've got really freckled skin, and my maternal grandmother and great grandmother and all her lineage came from Southern Ireland. So I kind of feel like this is, you know, my dad came from Wales, so we've got a lot of Celtic stuff going on, haven't we, really? So, but yeah, I feel the same, Jack, that I want to go back there.
I rather wish I had Irish ancestry, but I can't find any, unfortunately.
Oh right.
I just feel it's one of my spiritual homes.
Oh, absolutely, darling, absolutely. So yeah, we need to visit it, Jack. We need to take Andrew. We need to have a field trip. We'll call it a field trip. We'll go off on a jolly and we'll go and visit Dingle.
Yeah, and Kenneth will have to fly over and join us too.
Yeah, you can, Kenny, definitely. I don't know how long the flight would be from America.
About 8 hours, probably.
A lot longer than I think it was a 1 hour flight from Birmingham Airport to get to, where did I get off? Dublin, and then drove the car.
And of course, it's all open again now after all the nonsense of the last couple of years.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yeah,
indeed. Flipping Lula. Right. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week. We haven't decided yet. I'm sure we'll think of something.
Yeah, this was our Tuesday night chat, wasn't it?
It's
Monday,
Annie. It's Monday, Annie.
No, I know. I mean, what inspired us, Jack Cox, was
sorry,
on Tuesday night, didn't we? And then while we were jabbering away to each other about scrummy, lovely things, we went, Dingle. What about doing Dingle? Yeah, let's do Dingle. So yeah, we planned this. I think it was Tuesday evening we met up. So yes, I'm very glad that we got time to talk about beautiful Dingle and beautiful Fungie as well. It just brought back some real beautiful scrummy memories.
Right, well, I will edit this one, so don't expect it to go up onto YouTube until Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. I'll put some of the pictures of my latest trip on and try to cover up some of the flashing screen. Okay, darling. It's well behaved now we're finishing. Behave yourself now, yeah. So thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you, Annie, for being my... People are going to watch it on YouTube. Thank you, Annie, for being my wonderful co-host. Thank you for being my wonderful co-host as well. And then we'll talk about something scrummy next week as well. Yeah, we didn't do the thing with your friend, by the way. He never got back to me. Oh. No, he's got... I don't know quite what's happened to the lovely Mark. He never replied to my email, so. And I asked him for an appointment to go to Time to Float, and I've not heard anything, so I don't know what's happened. But okay, I'm very, what shall I say, very persistent.
And very persistent.
Right, see you all next week.
See you all next week.
Namaste.
All you need is love.
Love is all
Da-da-da.
we need.
All you need is love.
Love is
La
all
la
we
la
need.
la la. All you need is love.
Love,
Love.
love,
Love is all
love is
you
all we
need.
need. Hold that thought, guys. See you next week.
Bye. Namaste.
Hasta luego.
Namaste.